the force PRO, gave the position of the Nigerian police and advised that that election be suspended. The Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Agbemiese, waded in on the matter, advised that, the election might be needless because the law and the judgment have returned those APC chairmen. And the state government, shrugged off both advices and said, thank you, gentlemen, but we will go ahead with these. On the eve of the election, OCX said their secretariat have been, shot by the men of the Nigerian police. But the election went ahead, and by Saturday evening, all the positions up for grabs were all occupied. The chairman, the councillors of the People's Democratic Party in the states were returned as elected as well. So, as of Monday, many persons were waiting to see who will have the local government secretariat. But it seems the state governor, Demola Adeleke, told the newly elected chairman to say, please stay off the councils. We don't want any problem. We will do what we have to do. At that swearing in, the governor of Osun State, Bala Mohammed, was there. The governor of your state, Engineer Seyi Makinde, was there, who is the leader of the PDP in the Southwest. And he spoke in a very strong tone to say, please, everybody, behave yourself. That's me paraphrasing part of what he said. We will not look and allow you people to mess us up. And in all of a sudden, that is what we are seeing right now. Now, who is in charge? The APC are saying they are in charge. By the way, the workers, members of the NOLGE, members of the NLC, and those councils have been advised when that chaos happened to stay away from the councils. They are not yet back. The chairman, APC chairman, if I mean to call them that, APC, the chairman on that, the flagship, the flag of the APC that are occupying those councils have given them 3 days, 72 hours to return to the councils or face sanctions. The NLC and the TUSSLE have said, you guys don't know what you're saying because you don't have that power to do that. I mean, many persons are honorable. From our State House of Assembly chairman, State House of Assembly member, pardon me, he waded in on the matter, Honorable Osun State, and said the APC, the federal government should just recognize, those chairmen of the APC and, fund the local government through them and all of those things. But we have a stakeholder with us. He is of the civil society organization, a member of this realm, and of course, a public affairs analyst with us this morning. Ayo Logun joins us virtually. Good morning, comrade. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm sure you heard that introduction of mine and the background. APC laying claims to the councils. PDP are saying they have been sworn in, although they are yet to go to the council secretariat. And the people doesn't even know what is happening. The NLC, NOLGE, I've told their members since last week to stay away, and everything is just in a state of confusion. What do you make of these developments?
Well, the background you have laid in your introduction, I want to assume and believe so, that apart from the fact that it's in the public clear, everyone seems to be aware of exactly the scenario that you have painted. But let me start this conversation by saying that the attending crisis, the attending Ulabalu that greeted the state by the outcome of that judgment of appeal court about a week or two ago was unnecessary. It was one that was avoidable. It was one that shows that rather than growing as a people democratically, we are retrogressing. Nobody succeeds in governance or succeeds in having political power by grabbing it. It is supposed to be freely given. So when self-help is resorted to in the name of wanting to show that you are in control or wanting to show that you have more violence capacity than the other group, then it becomes needless, especially when it has to claim lives, except the figure has been added. The last I had, as according to the police, was that that mayhem saw 6 lives lost and many losing body parts and still lying critically in the hospital. But having said that, I also want to posit that the lockdown or the stalemate, seemingly, in quotes now, that we seem to be having at the local government level in Osun State was also one that is needless and avoidable. Politicians must learn that they occupy political office by two things. Number one, the will of the people. Number two, the provision of the grand norm, which is the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that guides every action. I wish to state categorically also that what is happening in Osun until last weekend was not political. It was simply legal. And it turned legality turned into violence, and then politics was introduced. Because of our time, there are two things. The judgment of the Appeal Court in the early part of February purportedly reinstating the erstwhile chairman and councillors under APC as an outcome of the 2022 election is what the APC as a party is holding on to as the basis for restoration to office and occupation of the local government chairman and councillor's office. The PDP instead is claiming victory from the judgment given against the APC in favor of the APP, if you remember, which also got to the appeal, and the appeal dismissed for lack of diligent prosecution. I'm not a lawyer, but it is clear, at least not yet, but it is clear that some fundamentals of intellectualism includes that you know something about everything, especially in issues like this. Apart from the fact I've spoken to a number of lawyers who have no interest in the debacle in Osun, I also know that let us assume without conceding that the judgment of the appeal court in the case of the APP versus APC was given in favor of the APP, assuming without conceding. And then another one was given in favor of the APC against the PDP. In law, when you have two judgments of the same court of competent jurisdiction, in this case, the appeal court, the most recent of such judgments subsists. That's the position of the law. So assuming without considering that there is truly two judgments of the appeal court, the provision of the law is that the latest subsists. And if the latest should subsist, that means the judgment of the appeal court given in Akure as at this moment supersedes every other judgment earlier given in that case or similar cases. Now, I know some PDP will say, oh, it is this, it is that. Now, assuming without considering that there was no explicit statement in that judgment saying that the SYL government chairman should go back to office, and you are assuming that there is ambiguity in that judgment, the right thing to have been done by the PDP and the Demola Adeleke-led administration is to have sought for clarity, to seek for interpretation of the position of the law in that judgment from the same appeal court. That is, the law allows it, that you approach the court that has given judgment that, look, there is ambiguity in the delivery of this judgment. We seek clarity. And perhaps, just perhaps, if that has been done, the life lost, the properties destroyed, body parts maimed would have been avoided, because the appeal court will have had no choice than to accept that challenge of interpretation, fix a date. And once that date is fixed, nerves will have been calmed until there is an interpretation of the judgment that could either be in the favor of the PDP or the APC, and that will have been the provision of the law until appealed at the Supreme Court. But the two parties in this case now, the APC and the PDP, for wanting to show supremacy that is needless, were resorted to self-help and went to occupy political offices, which turned into a bloodshed. Now, having said all of this, one would have assumed that after all the crises, the mayhem, the killings, and all of that, the two parties, by now, will have approached the court for clarity in that judgment, or either party would have appealed it to the Supreme Court. And it is at that point it turned political. Because one thing is certain, if today the federal government chooses to recognize the SYL government chairman that have resumed office in court now, it simply suffices to say that administration at the local level will be in the hands of the APC. And with the judgment of the Supreme Court that granted local government financial autonomy, That means money accruable to all these local governments will be paid to them. You and I know that the state government will have a problem because those local governments will chose as guided by the law and made available weights under the Constitution to decide what project they want to do with their money. Don't forget, they will also be the ones to pay the primary school teachers. So they can decide to go into welfareism, begin to do things that have never been done, begin to do projects that have never been done, just to win the heart of the people, which will have impact politically on the second term bid of the incumbent. That's number one. Number two, except somebody prove me otherwise, most governors, not peculiar to Osun, almost all the governors in Nigeria are more dependent on allocations of the local government for project execution rather than what's accruable to them. If control of the local government is taken away from the hand of many governors, you will be shocked that many of them might not even carry out a project in a whole year. Because most of the time, they have often used the fund of the local government to execute projects and called it the project of the state or the project of the governor. So all of this is what adds up to bring us to where we are. But I keep saying one thing. I've said it on different national TVs and radio, that look, Yoruba are saying, they will say, there is no political solution to this crisis. People have been saying, maybe there's a political solution. Mr. Governor should approach the president, they should talk. This has nothing to do with politics. This is simply a legal matter which cannot be dispensed with political solution. So if it is a legal issue and can only be resolved by the court of law, which means both the APC and the PDP are still going back to the court of law, for one thing, for validation. The two groups now will need validation of the court to recognize them as the validly elected or validly occupiers of the office of councillors and local government chairman. So which means whatever crisis that you have allowed to fetter will still be resolved at the court of law. And that is where that adage of comes in. So if this problem will still be resolved by the court, why do you in the first place ignore that same court to find solution politically, which has resulted in the crisis and claim life?
Right.
And this goes to say that politicians in Nigeria are taking us back as a people by years instead of us moving on.
All right, Mr. Lobo. Yeah. Yeah. And you said that the PDP, assuming that Akure Appeal Court or the Appeal Court in Akure that gave that February 10 ruling, gave something, assuming in the favor of the APC, that the PDP could have just approached the court for clarity if actually they disagree, in which they disagree as well. Or one would say that particular judgment has been, opened up to different interpretations by different lawyers, even, within the divide on both sides, and some that are not even having any interest in the state as well. We have spoken to on this same program, people who said, oh, it's really not in favor of the APC, it's really not in the favor of the PDP. But you said the onus is on the PDP and the state government to seek clarity. One will say as well that the APC could have done the same thing to go to the court, in as much it's about peace, it's about service to the people, not just about grabbing power, that in as much the PDP could have done it, the APC could have done the same as well. You don't think so?
That's exactly what I've said. If you listen to me very well, I said, assuming without considering that the judgment is in favor of the APC, the PDP could have gone to court. The APC also could have gone to court rather than resorting to self-help. That was the same. That was exactly how I phrased it.
So the decision taken by the APC, you feel that is self-help, or they going after what they think belongs to them?
Look, this is human. It's not about being Nigerian. When you feel something is in your favor, you want to hold on to it as an advantage. And that is to the extent to which I cannot condemn what the APC have done. What they have done is just in the human nature. That when you feel something is in your favor, you want to hold on to it, paint it as much as you can in your favor, and run with it. And that is why the highest honors, the biggest honors of seeking interpretation will have been on the PDP. The PDP knowing fully well that the architecture of security does not lie in the hand of the governor. The governor does not control the police. It does not control the DSS. It does not control the Civil Defense Corps. It does not even control the army. Whatever security, at whatever level, the governor has no control of all of these security forces. And it is the duty of these security agencies, particularly the police, to interpret the position of the law. By advantage, the control of the police is in the hand of the APC-led federal government. So APC has every reason to falter, to run with that result, claiming it favors them. So the highest owners, because the biggest loser in this will have been the PDP. So the biggest owners will have been on the PDP to have quickly sought for interpretation to counter the claim of the APC. That does not mean that the APC could not have approached the court too to seek interpretation to gain further relevance or further advantage. But if you ask me, the biggest owners, as at then, laid at the doorstep of the PDP for clarity, to seek clarity in the application of that judgment,
right,
to forestall all that happened after it. Okay,
comrade, from all you've said thus far, and then from the ruling of the appeal court, which you said the law states that the second ruling substitutes. From what you've said so far, are you trying to say, or are you going to say that the elections that were held last week Saturday should probably have been postponed till further clarification, or it should have been cancelled?
That is another way through which it's my personal opinion. I know a lot of people will say all kinds of things after this interview. I'm used to it. But I hold it as a personal opinion that that Saturday election, that last Saturday's election could have held, but not on that Saturday. There is nothing that you do. Look, you can be politically correct and be legally incorrect. Whatever the PDP have done in the last 1 week about that election is an attempt to be politically correct. But your correctness politically does not have a stand in the face of the law. It does not have correlation with the position of the law. With all this crisis ongoing, I would have thought, my personal opinion, that the OCEC, under the leadership of Demola Adeleke, because whether you like it or not, the OCEC in all the state of the federation that stands today, including the INEC, is an offshoot of the executive.
That's your opinion?
That is the truth. Even Mr. President appoints the chairman and members of the INEC.
Because OCEC is under Hashim Abioye.
As what? As the chairman?
Yeah.
Who appointed Hashim Abioye? Don't get it wrong. This is not to paint Adeleke any wrong. Even the federal government appoints INEC chairman. And that's why we have been calling for the independence of the electoral bodies across the federation. You cannot say you have an independent electoral commission that is appointed by the president of the Federal Republic or by the governor of the state. But that's not the basis for the conversation now. Right. So in my opinion, I would have thought that Hashim Abioye or the OCEC should have considered a postponement of that election to allow for proper resolution of the ongoing debacle or crisis, as the case may be. Let me now tell you another thing.
Yes.
Even assuming without conceding that the appeal court judgment favors the APC and they resume back to office, that tenure, the tenure of those chairmen would expire by October. And this is the danger. If things continue this way and the matter moves on to the Supreme Court, either of two things could happen. It is either the Supreme Court says that the appeal court judgment was not in the favor of the APC, and so the PDP, and so elections should be conducted. The parties involved, that is particularly the APC, will still go to court to seek invalidation of the election that held last Saturday because of whatever reasons have been adjudged as making up for it not being an election so properly called. The other thing that could happen at the Supreme Court could be the Supreme Court saying that the appeal court was right. The APC SY chairman have been instated. And the danger is if the Supreme Court should go ahead in that, there is the likelihood, in quotes now, that those chairmen will start their 3 years tenure freshly. And if that be the case, there is danger ahead of the next election for the PDP, except it's otherwise. So one would have thought that if the election were postponed, maybe for another 1 month or 2 months, to allow for proper resolution of the ensuing crisis by the court. If eventually the court interprets its own judgment and say, no, APC, you are wrong, we did not say you should resume to office, that election, if postponed, and by the time it eventually holds, will have been one of the most beautiful elections in the history of this country that will have set a precedent. But rather than allow that, in seeking to be politically correct, they went ahead with the Saturday election with all its attendant condemnation from different quarters. So the question will now be, if and when the resolution is eventually sought, and the resolution is sought, and assuming again without conceding that the appeal court stands to say, look, our position is that the SY local government chairman should return to office. What will be the fate of this local government chairman and councillors elected last Saturday? The cost at which that election was prosecuted will be at the expense of the taxpayers of the states. That means billions of naira gone down the drain that could have been used for other things. So in all of this, I am saying that politicians should learn to place premium less on politics and let's legalize our actions, remembering that whatever is done or undone is in the interest or otherwise of the ordinary people of the state, through whom power is given.
Okay, comrade, let's go to the people, the local government workers and the people of the state. Now, the local government seems not to be working because the workers of the local government, aside the chairman and the councillors that said they were reinstated, they have taken over at least 25 local governments working there. The other workers are not currently there, and it feels like the working or the state's working process has been placed on hold, especially at the local level. Now, former lawmaker, Honorable Osun State, said that the federal government should release allocations to the reinstated, in quotes, local government chairman to start working. Now, would you actually buy his thoughts? Because somehow everything has been placed on hold. So it feels like we're just stagnant, we're not moving. Should we should the federal government actually release allocations to these reinstated local government chairmen, or should we still wait for the court ruling?
Well, with due respect to Osun State, I still believe that sometimes we turn politics to laughable matters. That position of Osun State cannot hold, because allocation of local government fund is not released into the account of the purse of an individual. Don't forget, there is a subsisting order that all local governments should open an account with the Central Bank of Nigeria. So if such accounts should be opened with the Federal Bank of Nigeria, or even the existing account of the local government in all the commercial banks, except my mind does not set me right or the record does not set it right, the chairman of the local government does not, and if he does, it's not the only signatory to the account of the local government. We have the head of finance, we have the head of administration of the local government that are all involved in opening of account of the local government or how fund of the local government is spent. So if anybody is calling that money should be released to the returned local government chairman, in quotes now, of the APC, the question would be to what accounts and to be assessed by who? Until change of signature is done, there's nobody that can assess the fund of the local government. So if anybody is calling that the federal government should release funds to one set of councillors and local government chairmen as against the other, is the signature of those chairmen as of today on the mandate of the bank? Is it on the mandate of the federal government through the fiscal committee that was releasing funds? So as it stands today now, money accruable to local government in Osun State will be withheld. That's the situation. That's the truth that anybody might not want to hear, but it's the truth. And if the fund of the local government is withheld by the federal government in Osun State, do you know how many lives of ordinary citizens will be affected? Don't forget that the local government is responsible for payment of health workers at the community health centers. They are responsible for payment of salary to teachers at the local government. They are responsible for infrastructure delivery across the local government. So with what fund will all of that be done? That means there's another danger at hand of protest and counter-protest on money of local government employees being paid or not paid. That's on one side. Number two, you also asked about the NOGE not resuming to work. I agree absolutely with the decision of NOGE and the NLC, as at the time crisis was brewing 2 weeks ago, to have called out their members not to go to the local government. I agree with them to that extent, because in anything you do, survival is key. Survival is the first thing that anybody should think of. So when you know there's likely to be a crisis at one spot, you avoid such centers not to be caught in the web of crisis. But now that all of this crisis is over, seemingly, at least there are no killing, there are no maimings, there seems to be every presence of security men, I would assume that the NSC and the TUC should meet with their national leadership and resume back to office. They are civil servants. They have no business. They are jeep. That's the truth. It's not as an attempt to insult them. Civil servants are jeep. It is any government in power. They have no business with politics. So all they needed to do, or they needed to do rather, is to resume back to work and wait for directive of the courts or the directive of the Chief Justice of Nigeria to say these are the correct political heads of the local government that you should work with. And they should go ahead. Because, like I said, as civil servants, it's none of their business which political party is in power. It's any government in power for them. So I hope the crisis will be resolved before the end of this week. Today is just Wednesday. We still have another 72 hours ahead, or let's say about 48 hours ahead, for all of this crisis to be resolved by the leadership of the TUC and the NOGE. And I hope that by Monday next week, they will resume to office. And not because some people threatened them to resume. No.
All right.
Resuming because they should as civil servants, not because they are under threat by the PDP or by the APC.
Okay. You said something. You said the crisis seemingly reduced drastically. We heard from the speech of the governor of the state. He told the elected PDP chairman not to resume at the secretariats to avoid chaos, possibly. So we at this stance now, at this time, if these workers are to resume, they are going to probably be resuming under the APC local government chairman and the PDP local government chairman at home. How do you actually level this, or what would you say about this? Because somehow, if these people should resume, don't you think the PDP local government chairman would want to go back to, would want to take their position as the elected local government chairman?
That is the much reason why the resolution to this debate should be sought early. But let me clarify that the civil servants and the local government can resume without taking instruction from either of the two parties politically. There is an head of local government administration. So some person can still give orders to civil servants under him, pending the determination of the court on who the substantive political heads would be, to avoid putting the life of ordinary citizens at risk. That is the position I'm making. But whether the APC are occupied and the PDP local government chairman are at home is immaterial. That will be resolved by the court. When is what I don't know. And I used to say this, that the wheel of justice grinds slowly, but it definitely do grinds.
Wouldn't it be wise for them to stay away till the court ruling? Because somehow, I think that if these workers should resume, the PDP elected local government chairman might feel that, okay, they have actually been pushed out of their positions and might want to come in to take their positions, which might breed another round of chaos.
If the NOGE staff continues to stay away, and this debate will last for another 2 months, what will be their justification for expecting salaries? He said that the wages of a laborer is what's being paid to him. So what wages will be due to them as salaries when they fail to do the work?
All right.
That would be tolerating what is not right.
Right. We are due for break now, but before that, stemming from what she has asked, now, the workers, local government workers are at home, due to what their parent body, the NOGE, the NLC, TUC have said. But, for people in this state, apart from the confusion that we are currently witnessing, is the fact that the operations of the local government has been, put on hold. And that means at least with what we can see, people who have one or two things to do at the local government local government secretariats will not be able to do that. People coming for documents, local government identification, certificate, even people that have planned their wedding for registry. That means they have been denied a seat, at least if their time frame of getting married falls between this particular time. And, people having their document at the local government planning, town planning and urban and all of those things. And this is how it's affecting. So what do the people do at this time? At least you've seen the example, and maybe more, in which people have been denied whatever they are planned for, whatever they are supposed to do, and they are just, wishing and hoping that something will be done. And this is where we are right now. So where does this leave the day-to-day lives of professionals who have something to do? People are supposed to do one or two things, obtain one or two documents from the court, but in which from the local government secretariat, but they can't access it right now. What can the people do?
Absolutely nothing. There's nothing the people can do, except to, as individuals or as a group, approach the court for enforcement of fundamental human rights, which will also means that they will demand from the court to tell them who the officially elected local government chairman and councillors would be. That is not out of place. And that's one area that people are not looking at. As individuals and as a group, citizens of the state and dwellers of the state can approach the court to say that, look, my right has been denied me. I'm supposed to do this as a local government. I'm supposed to get married. Date has been fixed, blah, 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 and I've been denied. And by the denial of such right of mine, I'm seeking enforcement of my rights. And that will include that the court tells me who are the people to be dealt with in terms of formality at the local government level. And that will also be another way to approach this issue. Except that is done, there's nothing else the people can do. And that's why they used to say that when two elephants fight, the grass suffers. This is not about politics now. People are suffering. There are people that cannot live their daily life properly without having one or two things to do with the local government. Now their life has been put on hold. And that is my concern. You cannot, in an attempt to fight a battle for the soul of governance, put the life of other citizens at stake. It's not worth it.
All right. We'll go on this quick break. Kindly hang in there. When we come back, we'll switch gears and we will, take a flight to your home state, Comrade Ologun, in Osun State. Now, Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa has been sworn in for his own 4-year full term. The expectations are high. What kind of a leader will Lucky Aiyedatiwa be? He has seen out, the mandate, the tenure of his late principal. Now is the man fully in charge. What will be and what will not be? Stay with us.